Yo guys, what's good? Ase once again with another Exo Series video. And as you can see up here, we have dealt with chapter 7 and 8, or sorry, episode 7 and 8, and we're currently trying to get through episode 9. And boy, it takes long. So before we get into the action, you can see I got some zest left and I already have done my free summons. So I thought, let's try on the first guardian and maybe we get lucky. Who knows? So let's get into that. And afterwards I show you the clip of me going through Bernavas. And I don't know how long it took, but it felt like 30 minutes. It probably was like 5 or 10 minutes, but boy, it took so long. And I honestly have to say, it's not that enjoyable, because at some point you have cleared all the ads and it's literally just rotation after rotation, but you cannot take it off auto because nothing good here. You cannot take it off auto because yeah, the units are a little bit stupid. So with all that said, let's get into the action. Alrighty, so we have actually also switched to a new emulator. So now I'm not using Memu Player anymore. I'm using LD Player. And that has been going quite well. So no more crashes, some glitches. And yeah, that has been rough. So because I don't want to bore you too much, we're speeding this up to 2x speed because yeah, it didn't take quite 30 minutes in time, but 10 minutes is more than I'm actually willing to spend on relatively boring content. Because let's be a little bit honest, this is not the most exciting piece for like the 2-3 story bits that we get. And yeah, it has been a drag. So especially because sometimes you get unlucky and like they dodge, they block, you don't get the breaks off in time, and suddenly you're faced with, yeah, you lost your healer, reviver, your damage dealer, whatever, and suddenly the whole thing turns into like 15 minutes, 30 minutes. And that happened quite a lot. So while I was still using Memu Player, let me put the microphone a little bit closer. While I was still using Memu Player, I was getting, like, as I mentioned, like a 10% crashes over crashes. And that takes like a good 10-15 minutes. And if you have that 3 times in a row and sometimes it crashes after 6 minutes, like, that's no good. Obviously that's not the game's fault, that's the emulator itself. But in all honesty, like, I never enjoyed like this super dragged out content in any game, like be it World of Warcraft or something, where you just have to like 2-3 hours of continuous, like, be on point with your rotation, do a mistake and you get set back 2 hours. I never liked that in games, and while I can understand it for an MMO where you have a raid, where it's very tactical fight, where you have to pay attention to what you're doing, this is not tactical. You're breaking the enemy and then, like, because there's no mechanic attached to them, like in which order you break them, you just break as often as you can, as much as you can, and like quickly. Like here I did a mistake and I was like, oh, should I break? All right, no, my Rera should take care of that. I should have just broken it because that would have saved me like one turn, I guess. But yeah, as you can see, like the damage even when he's broken is abysmal. I don't know, like it continues like this more and more. This is not fun in a boss fight, because as you can see, I'm not doing something strategical. I'm doing the same abilities over and over again for 10 minutes. You guys didn't have to face all that, at least in my recording. So, but I don't even think that it's interesting to watch, like somebody basically doing this for 10 minutes. And overall, I think the whole chapter 11 is not so much about like what you can do. It's just have the heroes at an appropriate level with the element enhancement so you can break quickly and then just deal damage. That's it. There is no strategy involved whatsoever. Like not necessarily, like there is some strategy involved, and that has to do with which kind of units you pick. But as you might have seen from almost everybody that is around, like they're basically bringing their best units and that's it. There is no like, oh yeah, this time I bring FCO Tart or whatever. So let's switch to the next piece. Since we have done this was pretty good. And here, this is chapter 7, and I've actually decided to just go on auto and see what happens, because there was no boss anymore, so I didn't expect any one-shots. And yeah, this took me 6.5 minutes on auto. So I actually watched some YouTube on the side. I didn't even care. Like I just recorded, and I don't know, like this is something that I would expect from a farming scenario, not necessarily from a story scenario, right? Where this is content that is hard, difficult. It obviously isn't a difficulty in terms of your units have to have certain abilities besides the heal reduction. No, it's just damage. And this, I don't know how often I need to mention it and how often I already mentioned it. The losing of the like break system is horrible in my opinion. It made the game so much more strategical in terms of, oh yeah, I switched to the emulator and I forgot to set the settings. So here there's a couple of units with a yellow stone and 3 machine stones, and some of them have green stones. Like for most of those units, I would decide, oh, the tank, because the damage over time just ticks through, I break his nature, his, what's it called? I break his machine first and then let the nature handle the rest of the things. And for the others, I might have gone for machine first and then light in order to get some life leech. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I thought that was an excellent mechanic. Yes, it was definitely very punishing if you got broken. But, I mean, let's be honest. if you get broken or not made only a difference in PvP, because in PvE you get one shot. That's it. Like, if the enemy hits you with a clean crit, you're dead anyway. It doesn't matter if you're broken. And for most of those heroes, it didn't even matter too much if they break you like entirely. So we have cleared this out, and because I thought just having 2 fights is a little bit too short, I went into Path of Trials 8 that I haven't cleared out, and yeah, just try to see how that compares. Like, you have to think about the hardest content in the game that is supposed to be like super end game, and then the story mode where the hardest content in the game is not as difficult, where you have way more strategic elements in terms of, yeah, they have lesser stones and thus you can play around with them too much. I think Dread said that in one of his videos about this forced mechanic. Why do I have to, like, in order to farm the awakening gear that should make it easier for me to clear to Path of Trials, why do I have to get already the awakening mechanic, or not the awakening mechanic, the element enhanced mechanic completely through and then walk through this hard content? Why is Path of Trials kind of on the weaker set than Chapter 11? So it makes no sense for me in terms of balancing, and here we face kind of a similar issue though. So in later Path of Trials, it's basically like this. The boss doesn't do enough damage to kill your entire team, but he resists everything and has immunities, so you can't even make it a clean sweep fight. Like here, it literally wouldn't matter which damage dealer I have brought in, because all of them do the same, right? So in terms of that, I find the game Exos Heroes is a great game. I love it. It has brought me a lot of fun. However, like jokingly, I call it sometimes, so we're switching back to the game. As you can see, I was farming some gear again. So lovingly, I call it Exos Missed Opportunities, because time after time the game has the chance of doing something really amazing, and the developers show that they're not completely tone deaf. Like, they're giving us great events like this summon every day, right? Bringing back some of the strongest banners, giving us one of the new heroes for free. Like, those are things that are amazing, right? From a developer side, where you are like, oh, that's cool. And then on the other hand, you have like these completely, in my opinion, brain dead nerfs, where it's like, players don't like it or aren't happy with it, so we just remove it without replacing it. And that is, like, in my honest opinion, like missed opportunities for making this game greater. I really hope they bring a better mana system in place, because this mana system, in my opinion, sucks. It's the worst that I have ever seen in like a lot of games, because there's no strategic element in anything. Like I have to bring mana accelerators, otherwise I'm just falling too behind, and if that is a forced mechanic, then it sucks. I don't want to make this some negative kind of story. I like the game and I wish it goes into a proper direction. I'm worried about the longevity of this game if it turns players away with all these weird decisions that they have. Because obviously they can do some good things, but it's like one step forward, two steps back every single time. Like we saw that with Lab, we saw that with like now the mana system, in my opinion at least, the break system, and they have too much endgame content that is forced up on us. Because let's be very, very honest. If you don't awaken your heroes now, if you play at your own pace, then the game will very quickly become very, very boring. I've heard from a lot of players, they log in, do their dailies, do their rotation, and then they log out. And then they don't care for the rest of the day. And they do this maybe for 10 days, but let's give it one day that they don't open the game. How high are the chances that the next day they will also forget? Like a lot of games that I've personally played, like Air of Light. Air of Light did some similar weird, stupid decisions that in the end turned a lot of players away. I logged in daily for like 4 or 5 months. I played excessively, even with the bad decisions. And then one day I was at some place, I couldn't use my internet, so I couldn't log in, and I didn't log in for the entire day. I came back home, I had other things to do, I didn't log in. The next day, something else came up, and I didn't log in again. And then a week passed, and I didn't log in a single time. And I was like, I'm not enjoying this game at all. So I uninstalled it and have never looked back. That is now almost 8 months ago. And I fear a similar thing might happen to Exos over time, if they don't get their crap together. Because I had instances in this game where I didn't log in just because real life comes in the way. And the next day I was like, I had in my mind, oh, I missed my Stars of Fate, I missed my dragons. How long do you think people will continue with their dailies if the rest, like Path of Trials or Chapter 11, like just keeps them away? And in all honesty, you have to be very strong to get to this. And most players aren't, because any casual player, like they're basically stuck at episode 4. And they will be stuck there for a month, because it takes a lot of resources and time to level up your characters to 90. And you don't only need 1 or 2, you need a couple for the later levels. I'm a little bit of a special case because I spent a lot of resources for my quick cut series, where I just dumped in resources for other characters. I could have had way more level 90 characters than just one, and one that is close there. However, I think a lot of newer players, and by new I just mean like playing 1 month after me, don't have that because they missed a month of resources, right? They missed the early Dragon Blood heroes that made it easier for them to progress to content and thus gain the resources quicker. If you miss like 2 weeks, 3 weeks faded gear, that sets you back so much. And just to show you, I'm completely out of resources. Like these things you cannot level anything with those. Past 85, it's really hard to level up your characters with scrolls, and exploration doesn't give enough experience. And even abrasives, like there's no way I can get enough of them. So as you can see, 2 abrasives here. Like I have this shit. Like I could upgrade so many of my weapons, but I'm lacking abrasive. Like, so my gear is stuck at 40 because I just cannot upgrade it. What are these things for? Like, why do I have 230 of them if I cannot use them? And like the same with, yeah, the weapon ones. Like the weapon ones I actually use more. I've barely used this one. What I'm currently always lacking, like this one, I can't really use much of them because gold is another resource that you're constantly running out. So I feel the game forces you to progress really slow, but on the other hand has content that requires you to progress really, really fast. And early mistakes will show very, very quickly on your account. If you are like, oh, I invested resource X in character Z because I really like their overall design, their skill kit, but they just don't fit to the current content, then that's sad. Because my Otard, while I love her design, I love her skill kit, I cannot make use of her simply because she's the wrong element, while I would need my Ulum to be higher, while I need my, yeah, basically only those two for chapter 11. For chapter 11, I need Rera and Ulum to basically perform the whole time. I don't need the character that I really want to invest in, if that makes any sense. So anyway, I don't want to ramble too much. I hope you enjoyed the video. You saw some of the progress that I made, and I will continue grinding up and hope that I can get the characters up to a point where I can clear all them. I cannot currently pass 9. I just get destroyed way too early, and this is more a gear and stone issue. But as you can see at the beginning of the video, I had like 1.5 million gold, and suddenly I have nothing. Everything went into re-rolling guardian stones for my Lepin, so she can have 2 guardian stones that are not rainbow, but 2 sets that actually provide help. Alright, if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing, helps me out a lot. And yeah, we will cover some other things while I level up. So tomorrow, probably Sunday and Monday, there won't be any Exos videos. I will make a video about one new game that I want to test out, a first impression video, and maybe we go into another game that I play. I will see you in the next one, and until then, enjoy the grind.